The UN Security Council could not agree on a resolution against Syria. Our Nick Payton-Walsh has been watching developments at the UN. Let me get an idea from you. Is there a sense that the U.S. and its allies will go forward anyway? We did hear from the president saying that he hadn't made a decision yet. But what sense are you getting that they will sort of ignore the fact that, of course, Russia and China were able to stop this resolution from going forward and go forward militarily?
Well, it's been a remarkably odd day here at the United Nations. There was a text put forward in the morning by the UN potentially authorising all necessary measures to protect civilian populations, according to the wording often used in Chapter 7, part of the UN Charter here, so resolutions like that. We saw a hurried meeting of the permanent 5 members, Russia, China, France, the UK, US. Within about an hour of that convening, the Russian delegation came out, seeing the Deputy Ambassador talking on his phone there, and then everybody else came out. Very little comment, a lot of frustration, I think, in the air, and no real sign they were going to reconvene at all again today. In fact, that was pretty much the end of diplomatic activity, apart from a lengthy statement by the Syrian ambassador where he said actually the chemical weapons were all used by the rebels and given to them by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. That's kind of their sort of quite different and hard to fathom version of events. But as the day progressed, it became clear, I think, that the United States is pretty exhausted at the United Nations. State Department spokeswoman saying simply they see no avenue at the UN that can take them forwards. So I think potential, really, that this was them going through the motions.
I do want to ask you, though, about UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who actually said, look, can't we give a little bit more time for trying to use diplomacy in this case? And you're saying, looks like they're looking at it, the U.S. and its allies, that this is dead, diplomacy dead, this is just going through the motions.
Well, there's two types. There's diplomacy to authorise military action, which we saw today, I think, very much shudder to a halt in many ways. Everyone knew Russia and China would veto, as they have done for the past 3 Syria resolutions there. The other issue is diplomacy to try and get peace talks together. Some believe that military action may somehow drag Assad to the negotiating table. But then there's the rebels, who frankly say after the chemical weapons attacks they're not interested in talking peace at all. So both sides, they're trying to get to the table, have for months shown little interest, almost unreasonable expectations as to what had to happen before they're willing to talk. Remember a phrase, Geneva 2? That was the idea. They could get both sides again to talk about talks in the future. That hasn't really been heard of for quite some time, and we haven't only really recently heard for the first time in a while from Lakhdar Brahimi, the UN Special Representative, to try and get these talks started. So diplomacy really at a loose end here, sir.